Hey, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday with Pastor Josh. Wisdom is the quality or state of being wise, as knowledge of what is true, right, coupled with just judgment as to action, sagacity, discernment, and insight. We're going to look at what that means today on this edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast today as we continue Brant Hansen's book, Unoffendable. And I encourage you to pick up a copy if you don't have one already. And we are in chapter 19 today, which is basically one big long story. It's entitled The World's Worst Neighbor. So Brant shares a story of how, as someone who struggles with Asperger's and somebody who's introverted, that for him, it's harder to interact with people sometimes. And so he would just enter into his apartment and, him and his wife, and he didn't really pay much attention to the people around him, the people across the hall from him and whatnot. He knew he ran into the husband, in that apartment a couple times, just briefly. But one day the landlord came in and said, "Hey, Brant, did you guys hear about what happened to Jared and his family?" And so Jared and his wife, who was pregnant, and they had a young boy with them also, they had flipped over in this river or lake or something like that, and so they were sinking, and they had to get out, and so Jared got out, and then he tried to find a shovel and get some traffic to stop and help, and he tried to get his wife out, but because the windows were shatter resistant and whatnot, like most car windows are today, he couldn't get her out in time, so she died, her and the baby. And then the young boy, they were able to get him out, and then CPR ended up saving his life. So it was a tragic story. And so Brant shares a story as how the landlord is just telling him about all this stuff going on, and how Jared was at the funeral, and they were coming back today or whatever. And Brant, for the life of him, couldn't remember. And that was part of the Asperger's and whatnot. But he just wasn't paying attention, to the things going on around him, and he acknowledged that he just hadn't really recognized the wife and the kid, and so this gentleman was struggling, and so Brant, after being really convinced by his wife to go and to just encourage Jared and whatnot, finally went over there, and he went against everything in him to do it, but as he went over there and he began to just talk to Jared right there in the door, he didn't say much. He just said, "Hey, we heard what happened. We're heart sick about it. We're so sorry." And Jared ended up inviting him in, and ended up just sharing a ton about their lives and how he had met his wife Andrea, who had passed away, and just the whole thing, and just the struggle with everything, and how their son was handling it, and so Brant basically describes in this chapter his wrestling and his coming to understanding of what it looks like to really live a Christian life in reference to your neighbors. To do things that are really against our natural feeling, but he was able to reach out to his neighbor. And what does that have to do with being offendable? Really, he's trying to help us have a picture of what it means to really love the people around us. We have to be proactive. Because the thing is that many times when we are reactive, we don't usually react in love. We have to choose to act in love, and it's proactiveness that that proactive response. We have to do it. We have to be predetermined that we're going to do it, and many times we respond, like when something happens, we respond with everything but love, right? We respond with offense, with anger, when things happen, with frustrations and whatnot. And so he's really talking a lot about how we're called to, as Christians, to really to step out and love people. And so it's so important to do so. He says, "It doesn't matter if you feel stupid. I just want to love people for once." He says, choosing to be unoffendable out of love for others is ministry. Choosing to be unoffendable out of love for others is ministry. So that is so true. that when we choose to be unoffendable in things that normally would offend people, it ends up being a ministry to them. It ends up opening a huge door for the message of the gospel. And so I just want to encourage you to do that today, to choose love ahead of time, to choose to be unoffendable, and to let that love be a ministry to the people around us. You have an opportunity to be a minister or a pain in the side of people by how you respond to them. And so choose to be a minister and not a thorn, so to speak. This is a challenge for you today. Join me again tomorrow for chapter 20 of our book. We're coming to the end of the book. We have 24 chapters, so we're coming to the end. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for being a part. We'll see you tomorrow.